unimaginable tragedy. The strength she found from within to bring herself and her children through that time would prove to be their salvation, but the journey itself was a nightmare that most of us were powerless to help with in those early days, let alone understand. To see where they have all come to today, despite such a profound trauma, is to appreciate the power of love, resilience, and determination, which Maggie has in abundance. And the world has come a long way, too. Though eternal vigilance will be necessary, a virulent disease has been brought under control, and a generation of activism has removed the stigma and fear that once surrounded it. But it has also become easier to forget what happened at the beginning, when it wasn't like that at all, and there was nowhere to turn for help or understanding. There are countless stories about the many men who lost their lives to that plague, but there is much left unsaid about the families some left behind. This is one of those stories, and it needs to be told. Laura Landro, New York, New York, September 2015. Preface. The day my daughter graduated from Brown University, she asked me a surprising question. Light rain fell from the Providence skies that Sunday in May 2009. Caroline's class had walked through the historic Van Wickle gates behind alumni of the class of 1976, of which her deceased father was a member. "Didn't you think today was sad?" she asked from beneath the shadow of her mortarboard. "I looked at the class of 76 and thought, where's Dad? Why isn't he here?" The question had loomed over us long before Caroline's time at Brown, and I was determined not to let it ruin her proud, happy day. But there was no denying it was sad. Caroline was 3 when her father died in 1991. Her younger brother Dan, who was born in 1990, never knew his father at all. In all the intervening years, we had barely spoken of him. Now she was asking about him. Where's Dad? As a way of answering this question, and of perhaps coming to terms with what had happened to him and to us, this was something I needed to change. It was finally time to talk about John. Maggie, you are the original spark of life. I know I don't talk much, but this year has been the happiest of my life. I love you very much. Johnsky. 1. I could have used someone as steady, strong, and smart as John Andrew in my life as early as 2nd grade, when, in the comments section of my report card, my teacher wrote, "Margaret is very nervous. How can we get her to relax?" It was true. I was always frenetic, reaching, panicked about making mistakes or not being the best. My anxiety was in full swing well before the morning bell sounded, having protected my older brother, Bill, on our long walk to school, hurrying him past the lurking bullies. Why couldn't my parents see what I did? How different he was. How slow. Bill was just one of many disabled kids left to fall through the cracks back then, and I was the sibling anointed to make it all better. Not just better, nigh on perfect. "Reach for the stars," my mother advised from beneath her Jackie Kennedy-esque pillbox hat. My mother, Carolyn Zuckerman Kneip, was a true believer in self-improvement. Sprung from the poverty-stricken Yiddishkeit streets of Brooklyn, she dreamed of Camelot. Her favorite oft-told childhood anecdote, one of very few she stingily shared, was about her older brother Joe, the only one of her 3 brothers she ever mentioned. Instead of being a balagula, Yiddish for wagon driver, like the others, Joe was an attorney, educated and refined. "One day when I was about 15, she'd say, her intense brown eyes widening, Joe grabbed the romance magazine right out of my hands and replaced it with Dostoevsky." My mother credited this single act for nothing less than saving her life, teaching her that there was a world far beyond Brooklyn for the yearning. At the University of Pennsylvania, where she worked as a secretary, she was inspired by the celebrated professor Martin Seligman, who famously espoused the theory of authentic happiness. To fervent disciples like my mother, anything was possible and within reach, so long as she didn't take a hard look at her son. There aren't any pictures of my mother until she was in her early 30s, when she met my father, Arthur Kneip, a Jew from Virginia who wore